Hey, party people, let's render some leather. All right, listen, leather is not a fabric. It's not even a material. It is a category of materials. And I'm including vegan leathers in this, whether it's plastic or made, ethically out of mushrooms and stuff, because the point is fake leathers are trying to mimic the look of real leather. So regardless of whether or not you're working with fake leathers or real leathers, we're rendering leather today. It is a category of materials that come from different sources. They come in different thicknesses and different surface finishes. So let's look at a few of them. I want to quickly compare leather next to some other materials in a similar style so that you can understand more the differences between leather and fabrics. So these three are outfits from Hermes Spring 2022. And I chose these because they have this similar gathered kind of dirndl style, gathered waistline skirt. All three styles, kind of different, but mostly, pretty similar in silhouette with, kind of similar tops. And you can see, just looking at these skirts and the way they're gathered, that the leather, although it is quite thin, is bulkier than this iridescent taffeta and this leather. Leather is just bulkier. There are some that are very, very, very lightweight. I made an evening gown with this very thin leather once, and it was so thin that the model stepped on the leather train in a stiletto heel and ripped a hole in it. And the heart attack I had. It's fine. I fixed it. But yeah, leather is bulkier. So when you gather it, you're going to see the bulk and you see how much flatter these two fabrics lay compared to the leather. Okay. So leather is a little bit bulkier. So do keep that in mind when you're designing with it and you're illustrating your designs. Also, leather, again, is shinier. So you have this linen and this runway, the light is facing just full front. You can see by this highlight here that the light is just facing the model head on, and then you have shadows on either side, okay? This one, you don't really see a lot of shadows. The lighting is not very dramatic. It's very clean to show off the clothes. And you do see some shadows marking the gathering, and all the drapes in the skirt here. And then in this iridescent, I do have a video on how to render iridescent fabrics. I'll link that below, but basically, the base color in an iridescent fabric and the shadow color are different, okay? So if this olive green was not iridescent, then it would just be olive green and then darker olive in the shadows. But the shadows are like a dark purple blue instead. It's got that two-tone color look, but you see very distinct shadows in here. And then in the leather, you see, because it's pretty shiny, you see definite dark brown, dark terracotta shadows, and then you see a ton of white highlights. Okay, so every time the gathers come up towards the light, it gets white, and then when the gathers go in between the drapes, it gets dark. I'm just on Nordstrom.com right now, and just here you can see 4 different levels of shine. So the key thing about leather is rendering the correct amount of shine. Look at this one. It's pretty shiny. Look at these big highlights here and here. And this one, it is a little bit shiny, but far less shiny than this one. This one's white. It's harder to see shine, but there's definitely no bright highlights here. And then this one is kind of in between these two in terms of shine level. You get the point, right? So if you're looking at a picture of a leather jacket or a leather garment and you want to mimic it, pay attention to the shine. If you have a leather swatch that you're using for your designs and you're illustrating your designs, then bend the leather a little bit and see how much highlight picks up in the light, okay? And then you'll understand how shiny you need to make your garment. Look at this. No shine at all. So how would you render something like this? It's basically a matter of laying down your base color, the brown, and then putting in your shadows in the appropriate places. I'm going to render a few examples after, my little leather dissection here. So I'm going to show you, but this is a non-shiny leather jacket. Again, here, pretty shiny leather. I do have a video on how to render quilted fabrics, and I'll link that in the description box below. This is very shiny. If you want super duper shiny vinyl PVC, you want to render something like that, I do have a video on that, how to render PVC, and I'll link that below as well. Before I forget, please give this video a thumbs up, join, subscribe, share, all those good things. Now let's render. All right, so the thing with leather is it's really a matter of shadow placement and highlight placement, okay, for the shiny leathers. All right, so let's do a quick review on some simple garments, all right? I have found that the best way and the easiest way to show off how three-dimensional an object is to choose a diagonal light source, okay? And so when you see this person in a simple t-shirt and pants, just pretend the light source is coming here like this. It's coming above the person, but not directly. And it's coming in front of the person, but not directly, like off diagonally, okay? Like that, all right? And there are three kinds of shadows, okay? Number one, shadows that happen because the light is above. So shadows under the light, that'll be the bottom half of the bust. And shadows on the dark side of the light. So this arm, on this arm, this is away from the light. This side of the body, right? Again, this side of the leg, of the pant leg. It has like a nice drape there. Right? You see it starting to take shape. And then the third kind is cast shadow. So if things are blocking the light, then it's going to cast a shadow. Okay? So this arm is blocking the torso, so there's going to be a little bit of cast shadow there. Okay? This torso is blocking this, so it's going to cast a little shadow there. Okay? These ripples in the drape, they're going to cast shadows. This t-shirt that's tucked into the trousers and like folded out a little bit is going to cast a tiny shadow there. The center front zipper is going to cast a little bit of a lip shadow. If she was wearing like a big poofy dress, like if she's wearing this dress, I don't know if you can see it, but there are cast shadows on her leg, okay? So under the light, away from the light, cast shadows. Now for highlights. For highlights, of course, anything that is facing the light would get the highlight. So for this exercise, I'm using a white chalk pencil, okay? It's pretty strong, okay? But I want to make sure this shows up. So this part of the shoulder would get the highlight. The top of the chest, because it's slanting up, is facing the light. Just like a little bit here. And like a little bit here, you know, the flat of her stomach. I would drop a little cast shadow on this thigh, cast from this other leg onto that thigh. And do you see how you are seeing a leather t-shirt and trousers in a softly shiny, not super shiny, warm gray leather? Okay, let's go up a notch in difficulty and let's take a look at this varsity jacket with a wool Melton body, rib knit cuff and collar, and leather sleeves. And let's address how we are going to do these crinkles. Okay, but first I want to talk to you about shades of black and light blacks, dark blacks, and different color blacks. When you look at this, it's obvious that the leather black is a lighter color. You know, just basic photography. The wool really absorbs the light, and so you don't get any shine, and then the leather sleeves look really shiny. What you're going to need to do is render the wool in black, do the shadows in a dark black, and then you're going to have to do the sleeves in a really dark gray. And you need to pick the right tone. This is Copic Warm Gray 8. And do you see how green it is? Because it's warm gray. It's more like Prismacolor French gray. It's got that yellow, those yellow-green undertones. Now this is Prismacolor Warm Gray. And I know. And do you see how completely different that is and how that one has more of a purpley, reddish undertone to the gray? Here, this one is 90% and this is 60%. You can really see the undertones of the purpley, reddish. Here is 80%. And you can see how the undertones of the Prismacolor Warm match this leather color better. And then, of course, the black parts, the wool parts, the straight up black parts are going to be black. Okay, but you see how those colors work together? Okay. I've said this 100 million times, but if this is your first time on my channel, I will tell you that I choose markers based on the color I need and not the brand. Like I have set brands that I like, and out of those brands, I choose based on color. So, you know, any given day, I'll be working with Copic, Prismacolor, and Chart Pack. I also like the touch markers, not the touch 1s or the touch 5s or whatever, but the touch, and then also the Blick. So those are the brands I like. Also the Winsor Newton ones. So for the sleeves, I'm going to use the warm gray and 60 and the warm gray 80 in the Prismacolors. And here's the thing, is everyone says you can't really blend with marker, and it does, you know, but marker stays wetter than you think. You just got to work kind of fast, right? Let me explain something to you about crinkles, okay? When you have crinkles around the elbows and such, okay, here's a side view, is it basically looks like this. And so when the light hits it, the top is highlight, the bottom is shadow. The top is highlight, the bottom is shadow. The top is highlight, the bottom is shadow, and then here's your base color. So it's highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow. All right, so let's take a white color pencil and punch out the highlights. Next one. Again, we are laying down all the color. I don't think, even though this is a fairly shiny leather, I don't think that there are any places that are so bright white that I need to leave parts of the paper white. Okay, that is something, you know, that's like PVC vinyl level. And again, I do have that video, so you can go watch that. So I'm going to drop the color for the whole dress. Look, the pose is not exactly the same, you know. I got close enough, all right? So the pose is not exactly the same. The marker I'm using right now is a Pantone Tria, and these are markers I used in college, but this brand has been discontinued, and I think it got taken over by Winsor & Newton. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what happened. Either way, these are not available anymore, but you know, I still have ink in them, so of course I'm gonna keep using them. And yeah, they are 20-year-old markers that I still use because they're still good. And anyone who says that you can't create brushstrokes with marker doesn't know what they're talking about. And that's why I always, whether I'm using paint or marker, I color by section and I go in the direction that I want the brush strokes. And this one definitely has like a diagonal up from the right light source. I don't really like chisel tips except Prismacolor. Like Prismacolor makes really nice, soft, rounded chisel tips. And then everyone else's chisel tips are just a nightmare. Copic, Touch, like everyone's. Okay. So we have these shadows from like the fold over. That is away from the light shadow. And then all the undersides of these drapes get a shadow. All these little drapes in here get a shadow. And then the drapes in here. You want to do those nice pulls. That's why I emphasize line quality so much, because line quality and the beauty of line quality, it transfers into the way you lay your brush stroke with your pens and with your markers. And so it's all about that beautiful. And then again, remember with the gathers, it's highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow. So we're laying down all these shadows. And then of course, some deeper, like in between drapes. And this whole side that's turned away from the light should just be automatically darker. Because then I'm going to come in with a darker marker, a third marker. And do more distinct. And then we have the white. Now, I used a color pencil before, and I would say out of all the brands that I have tried, the white Prismacolor color pencil white is the creamiest and brightest white out of color pencils. However, if you need something even whiter than that, then I would use a white charcoal pencil or a white chalk pencil. Okay, I've been using these General's charcoal white pencils for a long time to do really bright highlights. Okay, so highlight that breast facing the light, you know. again, it's highlight, shadow, highlight, shadow. And then there's a secondary light coming from here. That's just the photography. So we are going to see some highlights in here. But it's obviously a much softer light than this one. So the highlights here exist, but are softer. And just make those really nice cupping shapes so that it looks like it's cupping around the breast. And then honestly, if I wasn't trying to mimic this, I wouldn't even do the highlights on that side. I would just let it be dark. So it would just show the strong highlights on this side and really create that three-dimensional effect. So actually, I'm just going to take all those out and really diminish those. This arm is casting a shadow here, which I moved this arm back just because I just wanted a clean marker look. Just like to clean up with a little pencil so that things look nice and neat. And there you go. If you want to learn how to render alligator leather, I do have a video on that, which I'll drop in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next video.